Hello and welcome. My name is Mary Hunter. I'm the chair of the Clatsop County Dems. Thank you for coming today. We're excited to have this opportunity to get to know you a little better.
Thanks, Mary.
So please tell me your name and the position you are running for.
Sure, I'm Andy Davis, though I'll be listed as Andrew Davis on the ballot. And I am listed for City Council in Astoria, Ward 1.
Okay, thank you. And what has moved you to take this role in the community?
Sure. So I'm very involved in the community in a larger sense. And so, I'm always looking for opportunities to help out. And Roger Rocco, who is my existing council member, decided he wanted to retire from the council. And I thought this was a good opportunity to maybe take a step and try something new. Yeah, I've been involved with city politics for a little while, helping out with committees, and we'll talk about that in a bit, but I just think I have something to offer and can help the council out, so I want to do that.
Okay, and what experience or background do you have that you feel prepares you for this position?
Sure, so like I just said, I've been working with the city, especially on their budget committee. I've been on the budget committee for the city of Astoria for 4 years. The last couple of years, I was the secretary on that committee. And I think that gives me a good preparation for how the city of Astoria government runs and sort of what some of its challenges are, especially on the money side. I also did that for Clatsop County as a whole. So I was on the Clatsop County Budget Committee. I was the chair of it for a couple of years. So I have good awareness as well of what's going on with the Clatsop County and how those two bodies interact. I've also been the chair for the Clatsop County Comprehensive Plan Updates Countywide Citizen Advisory Committee. So Clatsop County has been going through the process of updating our comprehensive plan. The citizens have a big role in that we have a bunch of advisory committees out or around the county and one countywide. And so I chaired that committee, and hopefully we'll have a new comprehensive plan within the next few months, even assuming we get approval from the county commissioners. So I think I'm pretty well prepared. I'm also involved in a few projects that have hit the city council at one time or another, including a housing project that I'll probably talk about in a little bit when you ask a housing question.
And you talked about serving on the comprehensive plan committee. What is the comprehensive plan?
Sure. So state of Oregon has set goals for the state that go down to the county level, where they basically want us to set up rules and regulations to how we interact with the environment out in the county. So that could be forestry, that could be agriculture, how we plan and zone our housing development, how we interact with things like wetlands. And so the county makes this comprehensive plan to put together some rules, some guidelines, some aspirations about how we're going to do things. And especially what that does in Oregon, the biggest thing that people notice about it is that Oregon has urban growth boundaries. The urban growth boundaries are set by incorporated areas like cities. And then outside of that boundary, we put pretty strict limits on how much development can happen. So what you end up with is a lot of forests and open landscape that people enjoy here, because we haven't put a bunch of housing everywhere throughout the county. But it also puts some limits on people. People can't subdivide their land and divide it up among all their children and everybody put a house on it. So, there's some challenges that go with it. And the comp plan helps the county navigate those and give people direction about what we're going to do with all of that.
Yeah, thank you. Affordable housing is a huge issue in our communities here on the North Coast. Do you have any thoughts on paths to increase the availability of affordable housing in Astoria?
Sure. So I think housing is a big challenge, and there's parts of the housing puzzle that Clatsop County or Astoria can't really affect on their own. The price of housing across the whole West Coast has gone up, especially in urban areas. Astoria is not unaffected by that larger trend, especially since we're a desirable place to live, and people will come from California or Seattle or Portland and move here and take advantage of the fact that housing costs a lot more in places like that. And so they can sort of bid up prices here too. So we're impacted by things outside of our control. We can't do anything about that. But I think especially the city and to some extent nonprofits and private companies here can try to develop more housing. I think the incentives for private developers are to develop high-end housing. The market will bear people building expensive housing because there are people from outside the area who will move here and pay for it. But we need housing for people who are working class, who have jobs in the county that won't pay for a $500,000 home. So we need to figure out solutions for people like that who are still looking for housing so that we can keep people in jobs here and they can keep living here. Especially, I think that's an issue for families who might want their kids to stick around, that they want to make sure that there's affordable housing for them as well when they get to the age that they can move out, right? So I think the city plays a role in maybe a couple of different dimensions. One is just trying to incentivize and open up land within the city for private developers and nonprofits to try and make housing. I serve on a nonprofit board. We're trying to redevelop a building downtown, the old alternative building, try to redevelop that into affordable housing. It's supported by some government funds from the state and federal government. I think that's one thing for us to leverage, is trying to bring funds in from outside of just the county and the city. But I think another thing is that the city should probably be exploring opportunities for the city to even get more involved in development. Public housing is not a popular concept in the US for the most part. But I think like I said, the incentives for private developers don't always align with trying to make workforce housing. So the city getting involved, whether that's public-private partnerships or trying to put together funding packages for people to try and get projects off the ground so that we can build more housing in Astoria that will keep roofs over people's heads who are working in the downtown, working in the tourism industry, and who maybe don't have the money to afford some of the housing that we've got right now.
Thank you. And related but separate, what possible solutions do you think we should explore for homelessness in our community?
Yeah, so I think those two things are intimately related. I think ultimately a lot of people are homeless because they can't afford housing. Housing prices have gone up enough that that's put people on the street, or in Clatsop County, we have a fair number of homeless people who are maybe sleeping under a roof somewhere, but doing something like sleeping on someone's couch. And those people are counted in the homeless numbers as well. So we need to find solutions for those folks. I think like the housing project that I've been working on, that's a project that's supported by federal funds that would get some people out of marginal situations. I think the project, the genesis of that project was that some people at a local church were working with the warming center and knowing people that had jobs in the community, but were staying at the warming center or sleeping out of their car, and just thought, hey, this is fundamentally an unfair situation, and we want to work to try and alleviate that for some people. And so we're trying to put workforce housing together that's supported, so it'll get some federal funds to help people out and sort of get back on their feet. And then hopefully they can, in the long run, afford housing on their own once they've sort of got some foundation under them. I think we need more projects like that. I think for the homeless situation broadly, one of the things that the current city council has worked on, cooperation with the police and things, is to try and limit the amount of camping downtown, to try and have camping in particular spots throughout the town. And I think, one of the things that I'm interested in making sure that we keep an eye on and that we help people with is just making sure that, there's a lot of support services that are downtown, making sure that if we're asking people to camp in different parts of town, that they still have access to services, so that they can get the support that they need, so that they can get into a better situation if they want to do that, right? We probably need some on-site services, so things like trash cleanup, maybe bathrooms, if we're asking people to camp in particular areas, so that it doesn't become a burden on the neighborhood that it's in. We've had a lot of people sort of complain about the burden that's put on the downtown area, if there's too much litter or things like that. It's not a solution to me for folks to be displaced into a neighborhood and just have the same problems somewhere that's not in our downtown. So I think we need to work cooperatively with the neighborhoods, with the police, with the homeless community, to help figure out the best solutions to these things, and so that we support people while they're in this difficult part of their life. Yeah.
Right, and you said you were working on a project related to homeless services. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So that's, as I said, that's just this project that is in the old alternative building. It was also the state hotel before that. We're trying to put essentially 60 housing units in the downtown. It's an old hotel boarding house, so it pre-existing has a bunch of old apartment units in it, and it's got an empty lot next to it, so we're hoping to build a sister building for it. And the real goal is to have those 60 units available on the market. Likely many of them will be like Section 8 housing. There's a real shortage of there's a lot of Section 8 vouchers in the county that don't have any housing available. So people might be on a list to get help from the government as far as their housing, but they still can't get into housing because there's nothing there. We're going to have, that's going to be compounded if some of the housing in the Astor building goes to market rate housing. We'll probably have an even bigger shortfall. So that's part of the target of our project is workforce housing, supported housing, as far as financial support in the downtown, so that people are close to services, close to transportation, it's close to the bus station, and able to work in the downtown and contribute to the community.
Okay, thank you. And aside from affordable housing and homelessness, in the next 4 years, what do you think are the biggest issues for Astoria, and how would you deal with them?
So, you gave us these questions in advance, and I'm no fortune teller at all, but I think one of the things that strikes me as an ongoing issue for Astoria, and that we need to figure out a good way to work around, is just the way we communicate and cooperate as a community. We just had a pretty contentious public process about Heritage Square. I think there were, in my head anyway, some mirroring for the process that the county went through when they were talking about relocating their public works facility. In both cases, I think there was a lot of confusion, anger from the public about what was proposed, and the dialogue wasn't always healthy. And I think that's both process wise, we need to figure out better ways to communicate, better ways to get the word out, though I think the city was really doing all they could, especially around Heritage Square. But then also just in terms of making people feel involved and included, so that, honestly, even if you don't get your way, because I certainly haven't always gotten my way when I've been involved with things, that you come away feeling like you've been listened to, that you've been part of the process, that, maybe you got outvoted, but there's some chance that things would change next time around. I think those are important things for people to feel like they're on board and moving forward as a community, that if you didn't get your way in Heritage Square, that you still feel like this is your town and that you want to be here and be involved. and that you still respect and want to cooperate with your neighbors. So I think that's an ongoing challenge for us. I think I've got some tools, both leadership and community involvement, that I think would be helpful in those sort of dialogues. So I look forward to working with the council to try and have better processes in the future, so that we can get people involved and make people feel heard.
Okay, thank you. We still have a couple minutes, so if there's anything else you'd like to bring up, now's the time.
Nothing else on my end. I appreciate the time, Mary, and thanks to the Clatsop County Democrats for putting this resource together for folks. I think it's important that people are involved and informed. So I'm glad that these sort of things exist. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you for coming. And once all of these interviews are complete, we will be posting them to YouTube and social media. And when they're uploaded, I will send you a link.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. Have a good day.